if you just go all in on that fight. Go all in on whatever it is that, moves you should go all in on. So we have done a lot as far as asset accumulation within ourselves. For the people who aren't making progress with the movement in terms of asset accumulation, most times they don't want to. Most people don't want to take a step. And a lot of people, unfortunately, feel defeated. Feel so defeated to the fact that they aren't even going to take the plunge. But we could do a lot of stuff on our own. What do we want from white people? Most of us want an apology. But we won't say it. Most of us actually want emotional reparations opposed to payment reparations because we want white people to make us feel good. That would make a lot of us happier than the actual check, to be honest with you. We want the pat on the back. I'm sorry, this was so bad. I get it. Just come here and give me a hug. We want white people to like us. I'm fighting for us to do the most within each other. I'm fighting for us to do more within each other. And I know we can do it. We know 25-year-olds, 26-year-olds who sell toothbrushes. Like we know these people. They're our friends. We have their numbers. A friend of mine, Scotty Smith, him and I think 3 of his friends in South Dallas bought 8 plots of land about a year and a half ago. He joined our school for a session, and then he was talking about the story. 9 months later, he came back to the school. He told us that him and his friends built on those plots of land and sold all 8 of those houses, netting him between $40 and $50 at least per house.
You mean $50,000 per house?
Yeah, so they sold they sold 8 of them. His profits were between $40 and $50 per sale of each house that they had built from the ground up. That's boss move stuff. These are things. I'd rather fight for things like that rather than trying to get white people to give me a check.
Okay, interesting. Well, I think that what is fascinating about the whole debate is that, first of all, I want everybody to know who just tuned in. I'm talking to Andre C. Hatchett from theblackrealestateschool.com. So you can go check out theblackrealestateschool.com if you want to learn more about what he's doing. But I think, Andre, what's so fascinating about this whole debate is that I think a lot of us approach all of this conversation, the debate in the black community, with a sort of either or kind of perspective. Yeah. Either or means either I fight for reparations or we choose to build our own. And we know that's I personally think that is that perspective doesn't get us to our best, right? Because there is room to do both, right? So you propose a reparations bill and you say, hey, Dr. Boyce, we need you to endorse it. Sure, I'll endorse it. Yeah, we deserve reparations. Why not? But that doesn't mean I can't also go off and think about what I'm going to do for my family, because I think that what is very dangerous is this idea that the condition of black people is solely going to be changed by government, choices. Because we know who runs the government. We know the government doesn't even do right by white people. If they don't do right by white people, then what makes you think they're ever going to do right by black people? And what continuously happens is that you see people sort of either committing to, because white people did this, then black people should do nothing to fix this. Because white people are responsible for this and they owe us reparations, then I am angry at you as a black person. I'm angry at Andre for even telling me that I have some say in my own financial condition, because I know that white people did this to me, and that's why I'm destined to remain broke and poor, right? And I think that's a really defeatist mindset. I would almost say that, like, for example, when we did Democracy, a Black American Horror Story, the new movie that we just put out, I broke down exactly why black people deserve reparations, and if they ever had me on a committee to do the mathematical calculations on how much should be paid and how it could be distributed, I'd be happy to join that committee. But we sat through 8 years of an Obama presidency, and, we've had Democrats run Congress and all of this, and not one single time have they ever said, okay, we're ready to pay black people for what they're owed. Let's form a committee to figure out the amount, and let's go ahead and start writing those checks. That hasn't happened. Now, do you think that there's a point where government behavior may change, that the government may, make a vote and pass a bill and say we're going to really give black people real reparations. I'm talking about the amount we're really owed, or at least a tenth of that. Like, do you really think that's going to happen in, say, the next 50 years?
I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. Probably because I haven't put much thought into it, to be honest with you. I haven't been involved in any reparation discussions in the past, 5 or 10 years or so, or any informal sessions. It's just the government hates us. The government has always hated us. So we force the government to make change. We force the government to, as far as we are now as a people, we force all of this change. So in order for us to get reparations, let's assume that, like this is the goal from here on out, right? How many of us are going to force the change? How we forced the way for Jim Crow to end? How we forced for segregation to end? How we forced for slavery to end? All these things were forced mechanisms from us. So for us to keep that same kind of energy for reparations, it's an uphill battle. And I want to go back a step to what you were saying. You were talking about the either or thing, which is correct. What we have to do less of in our community is cult-like activism. So that's where I disagree with you on this. So that means I don't like you, or I'm not going to be part of this. So that means everything you're doing is wrong. No, we can go about it different ways. As long as you're about African and Black progress, I'm with you. I may not be physically with you on all issues, but I'm with you. I support you. I hope you achieve it, because is the end goal for us to be right, or is the end goal for us to progress? For me, it's for us to progress. For me, it's for us to especially gain more in our asset column.
Yeah, well, I can't agree with you more. I mean, I think that, what's interesting is people like, I know Dr. Claude Anderson is one of the people out there in the forefront. He's actually filed lawsuits pushing for government action on reparations. He's because he has experience in the government. Claude Anderson wrote the book Powernomics. And because he's, had all this experience as, with the education department and politics and everything else and running campaigns, he's actually been, really, really forceful in terms of saying to the government, this is what you owe Black people. And he didn't just ask them to do it. He actually filed lawsuits right now that he's actually paying for with his own money at the Harvest Institute. So I think that there are people that are pushing for that agenda very, very forcefully. But what I think is that, in our lives, we don't just make decisions collectively. We also make decisions individually, right? And individually, there was, for example, in your life, there was a time, Andre Hatchett, where, you were a young guy who, you're Black like the rest of us, and you decided, I want to own a home because, home ownership is the way people move from either poor to middle class, or even middle class to nearly upper class, right? Stock market investing is the other way people do it. And you made that decision to buy a home. Now, I want to ask you this. When you were making $15 an hour and you bought your first house, when you went to go try to learn what the procedure was to buy a house, was there a white man at the door blocking you and saying, no niggas allowed, I'm sorry, we're not going to let you in, you can't, you're a Negro, so we're not going to let you learn how to buy a house? Was that white man present that day?
No. If he was there, then we were there at different times. I did not receive. I did not receive that type of treatment when I was going to get my first home. Okay,
so the next question I'd like to ask Andre Hatchett is, so when you started saving your money so you can have the down payment, to buy your first home, and you disciplined yourself to save your money so that you could, make that down payment and become a homeowner. What were you, 22 years old?
Yeah, 22. Yeah.
At 22 years old. Was there a white man standing there and saying, no, you're not allowed to save your money because you're Black, and we don't let Negroes save money. Negroes have to spend money. Did that white man show up and do that to you?
No, I didn't. It didn't happen.
Okay, so it sounds to me that even though we know that there are systematic obstacles out here, we know that there's oppression, we know that there are all kinds of little tricks to get Black people to do things that are not to our benefit, at the end of the day, it sounds like you made a conscious decision to go in a specific direction that allowed you to become a homeowner at an early age, correct?
Bingo, you got it.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Now I want you to kind of go in more because I know you run the Black Real Estate School and you work with a lot of other real estate experts on helping Black folks learn how to buy homes the same way you did. How has home ownership made a difference for you versus what your life would have been if you had said, you know what, I'm Black, I'm waiting for these reparations, man. You know, one day white folks gonna pay the reparations and I'm gonna be good. Compare what your financial life was like as a homeowner versus what it would have been like if you just waited for reparations and kept on paying rent.
So if I had used the wait for reparations approach, I would be at home with my parents. I never would have been able to move out. My self-esteem probably wouldn't be where it is because I would be reliant upon people who hate me. I'd be very miserable if I would have waited for white people instead of being proactive. Now, with me being proactive, I have the pride of owning property, owning assets. I have credibility because I own assets, and I'm able to teach people and partner with people and hire people to teach more of our people how to do the same and increase it and buy blocks of land. We have people coming into the school who have literally bought a block in Baltimore, and we're going to be teaching how to do these things. So waiting on people who have always hated you and who have budged only when forced has never been a way for me to feel good about myself. Me sitting down, getting some books, partnering with people, learning from people, going to workshops, seminars, applying what I have learned into my real life has helped me become a better, more well-rounded, more wealthier person for my life. So with the waiting game, right? Have we really looked deep into what drives them? So a lot of them, that meaning white people, like they're driven by us being down, emotionally, financially, everything. I was at my office. I work out of a WeWork the other day, and the lady in there, white lady, most people at the office are Black, and she was saying how on Saturdays, she comes to manager on Saturdays, it's a little loud in here, this, that, and third. She's like, you're here too, right? I was like, yeah, I haven't, I thought it was overly loud. Like, it is what it is. And I was thinking about it, like, why would she say this? I was like, oh, it's a lot of Black people and Latin people having fun and smiling and being happy. And I think that she's just one of those people who doesn't like to see us too happy. And that's who we're dealing with here. So since I've been a young guy, I've always known who I was dealing with. And I know that there were individuals every now and then who sort things our way, who'll be down for the cause. Great. I just never took that approach to wait on them to build up my self-esteem. I knew that with $5 and a 640, 700 credit score, $5,000 or more and a 700 or so credit score, I can get some things rolling by myself, and then I can grow that, borrow from that, and team up with people to go get bigger assets and go get other stuff done. Like, nah, man, I'm not here for the self-dependency white people game, and it actually annoys the crap out of me.
Okay, well, by the way, everybody, I'm talking to Andre C. Hatcher from the BlackRealEstateSchool.com. Also, if you live in Chicago, we'll be doing a film screening all weekend, 3 days straight at the Studio Movie Grill in Southside Chicago.
Nice.
You can actually, it's going to be really fun. You can go to drboycechicago.com if you want to get tickets, drboycechicago.com. Now, Andre, I want to ask you this. Let's go back to what you, okay, so earlier, now somebody mentioned, I see a brother here says that we should demand reparations, and I agree with you. He says, don't wait around, we should demand it. I agree, we should demand it. And what does that really mean? I know that whenever the Democrats come around and start sweet talking Black folks to get their vote, people like me say, yeah, let's demand something. And then, but Black folks fall in love with a politician and they don't demand anything. So I say, if people are going to demand something, then demand it, but don't just sort of say you're demanding it because you gave somebody your vote. That's not, voting doesn't mean anything if you're not asking for something in return. But if you're not asking for something in return, voting gives you nothing. Just make sure you know that. So, but anyway, the thing that I want to ask you about is this. So while you're waiting for reparations or demanding reparations or whatever it is, that white folks still ain't acting like they're going to pay it. I don't think they're going to pay it in your lifetime or mine. You'll be dead by the time they pay it, if they ever pay anything, I assume. Maybe you won't be dead, but we'll be very old. You chose to make a decision as a man to save your money and to get into a house so that your money would be going into your bucket as opposed to going into your landlord's bucket. Now, I want to ask you this. Now, you're 35 years old now. You started when you were 22.
36.
36. Okay, so that's 14 years. All right, so that adds another year. I actually did a little math here, and I want to talk about this because this is an important thing for people to understand. So, Dre, what would somebody have to pay in Yonkers, where you live, to have an apartment? What would rent be in Yonkers, like say now versus say back then, etc.?
Gotcha. So if I rented out my place that I own, it's a cooperative. It's like a condominium. I could rent it out at right now for probably $11.50, $12.50 range. When I first bought it, I could have rented it out for probably $650, $700 range. So I could, and my payments on my property are about $625, $650 or so.
Okay.
They haven't gone up. They've only gone down slightly. They haven't gone up since I've owned it.
Okay, so do you think that back then, if you had chose to have an apartment, you could have got an apartment for under $1,000? I mean, but that's what I thought. New York real estate was really expensive, right? But maybe Yonkers.
Yonkers is a little bit cheaper, but now Yonkers has there's probably 12 new buildings being built within a mile from my house, so everything is kind of going up, which is why I bought it. But yeah, we'll get back to that later.
Okay. Okay.
Then I could have gotten something rent-wise for around that price. Yes.
Okay, for about what, $1,000 or?
Yeah, would have been $1,000. So
Okay.
maybe $850, $950.
Okay, let's do 900. Split it down the middle. The reason I'm asking this is because I want to do what is called in finance. We call this a future value of an annuity equation. This shows you the magic of compound interest. This is what I'm really trying to help people understand what happens with your money when you're giving your money away by paying rent, or giving your money away by going to movies, or giving your money away by going out to eat, and you're not investing for yourself. You see, money grows. Every dollar you give away, you're really giving away $5 or $10, because if that dollar were allowed to grow in your possession, that dollar over time grows into $2 and it goes to $5 and $10, etc. Rich people understand this idea. This is what when I teach my students, call this financial fertility. Financial fertility is almost like if you have a young lady and she, let's say a young teenage girl gets killed. Well, it's not just her life that's ending. Any life that she would have reproduced has now ended. Or like when I thought about my grandfather almost died in World War II. He got hit in the head with a gun, and they thought he was dead. They literally put him in the morgue, and he woke up in the morgue, right? And I thought about all the, we would go to my grandfather's house, and there would be 40 of us there, right? And I was thinking about all these people that came from that one seed, that one individual, reproduce, and then the reproduce, right? So you had 40 people that were there that wouldn't be in that room if my grandfather had actually died that day, right? So when your dollar dies that day, it's not just your dollar that gets gone. It's all the dollars that your dollar would have given birth to, and then all the dollars that those dollars would have given birth to, all of that. So you're literally committing economic genocide because you're killing off multiple generations with one swoop. So the reason I wanted to know how much it would have cost you to get a decent apartment back then, Dre, is because I wanted to do a little math for the audience. People basically don't know that. Let's say that you had chosen to say you just gave up and said, look, the reason I'm broke is because I'm a black man. I'm only making $15 an hour because I'm black, and it's not fair. I'm waiting on reparations. I'm going to go ahead and just, I'm not going to try to get a house because people that make $15 an hour can't buy a home. It's not possible. So I'm just going to keep paying rent. So if he had kept on paying rent, $900 a month, and let's say his landlord is an investor. His landlord takes that money. And
every landlord is an investor, by the way.
There you go. Boom. You got. Thank you. So let's say your landlord had taken that money, invested in the stock market over the next 14 years, earning, let's say, a 10% annual rate of return, which is actually less than what the market has been given. So it's a very conservative number. The landlord's wealth would have grown to $330,000 over that 14 years off of your rent alone. So here you are, you're sitting in this house, you're paying your landlord $900 a month religiously. Now, mind you, this doesn't include rent increases. We know rent rent 14 years ago ain't the same as rent today, right?
No.
So these numbers are actually low. It's really closer to $500,000. And so he's taking this money and he's not buying, he doesn't buy into the whole woe is me, I'm broke mentality. He's thinking, I'm going to take this money, I'm going to position it to grow. So what happens is over the course of that next 14 years, you've given him $151,200 of your money. Now, again, there are broke people who do this. There are broke people who buy houses for their landlord every single day, right? So you're giving him $151,000, but that's not the worst of it. The worst of it is that the interest on that money that he has earned from your consistent contributions to his white supremacy are $178,956.85. So he's basically earned almost about $179,000 off the interest off of the rent that you're paying him, and that's just one tenant. So if you raise a child to be a landlord and to be a landowner, a property owner, the child understands it. So they say, I'm going to get 10 tenants that are all going to pay me that $900 a month. And that next thing you know, that kid's a millionaire. And it doesn't matter if they started off poor. It's a simple formula. Anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. Because there's people all over this country that pay $900 or more a month in rent.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you think about that, Dre?